Hello, friends, viewers. I am going to talk about the important things about the NAAC accreditation of colleges and universities across the country, India. NAAC accreditation of the higher education institutions is mandatory for all the institutions of higher education all over the country. I therefore would like to highlight the important things that need to pay attention to in order to get NAAC accreditation of colleges and universities. There are 7 criteria or parameters on which education of institutions of higher education or higher education institutions are assessed and accredited. The first and foremost criteria is curricular aspect. You know, 1000 marks or point is earmarked for NAAC accreditation of the institutions of higher education. This 1000 marks or points or weightage is split into 7 parts on 7 different criteria. The first and foremost criteria is curriculum aspect. Curriculum aspect carries 150 points or weightage. Under this criteria, the universities have to explain how syllabi are formed by the universities. What are the mechanism for the framing of the syllabi of different subjects or departments of the university. In the colleges, it is seen how the curriculum which is framed by the university is implemented. The college has to deal with the ways in which they carry out or implement the syllabus made by the universities, made by the affiliating university or universities of the colleges. So this is the first important criteria on which institutions of higher education are assessed and accredited. The second important criteria is teaching, learning and evaluation. Teaching, learning and evaluation carries 200 points or 200 weightage. Under this criteria, the institutions of higher education have to deal with how teaching is imparted in the institutions, what are the ways of imparting teaching over there, what are the means of learning for the students, and how evaluation of the students is carried out. All these things are to be examined under the second criteria, that is known as teaching, learning and evaluation. The third most important criteria of NAAC assessment and accreditation is research, innovation and extension. Under this criteria, the institutions of higher education have to deal with how and in what amount and on which topics, important topics and themes, research is carried out. The institutions have to deal with about the research. The institutions are expected to explain the innovations that they have at their institutions. They are also expected of social responsibility. Every education or every institution of higher education is expected of some social responsibilities. There must be a reach out of the colleges and universities to the rural areas, to the surrounding areas. The institutions of higher education are expected to reach out there and make the people, make the villagers, make the students, make the guardians aware of some of the important aspects of life. So, this is an important role that must be played by education, by institutions of higher education, be they colleges or universities. This criteria, which is known as research, innovation and extension, carries maximum weightage, maximum points. It carries 250 points. The fourth important criteria on which institutions of higher education are accredited is infrastructure and learning resources. Under this parameter or criteria, institutions of higher education are expected of having a good infrastructure, sufficient number of classrooms, well-equipped laboratories, e-library or autonomous or online library, smart classes, sufficient number of classrooms, etc. there is focus on the infrastructure and the resources of learning that the institutions of higher education possess for the benefits of the students who happen to be the great stakeholders of the education of institutions of higher education. The next important criteria, the fifth important criteria, this criteria which is known as infrastructure and learning resources, this carries only 100 points or weightage. The fifth criteria is known as governance, leadership and management. This criteria carries 100 points or 100 weightage. Under this criteria, the institutions of higher education are expected to have good governance, able leadership and better management, academic management, accounts management and vice versa. The sixth important criteria on which institutions of higher education are assessed and accredited is a student support and progression. This criteria also carries 100 points or 100 weightage. Under this criteria, the institutions of higher education have to explain in their SSRs, self-study reports about the student support. The institutions of higher education are meant for students. The students are the beneficiary or beneficiaries of higher education. They are the great stakeholders of universities and colleges. Therefore, they are expected to have sound support for the students. Economic support, counseling support, placement support, and the availability of jobs and services for them. They are also expected to have the details of the students that go for a study for higher education in central universities or foreign universities or other institutions of excellence. This criteria also carries 100 weightage. The seventh criteria or parameter is known as institutional values and best practices. The institutions of higher education are expected to have ethics, morals, moral values. They are expected to impart all these things to the beneficiaries, to the stakeholders, to the students. They are also expected to have best practices. Thus, there are 7 important criteria, important parameters on which institutions of higher education are assessed and examined. In my next lecture, I shall talk about the fees for NAAC and the preparation of SSR and the steps for NAAC accreditation of the institutions of higher education. Thanks.